Welcome back to day 4. We're going to be continuing on. This time we're going to do some revolute joints, which is a new type of joint that allows certain parts to move in a circular fashion. So we're going to start with this drive shaft today. Drag that into your assembly. And once again, if you notice my workflow, I try to make sure that I move the parts as close to my work area as I possibly can without overlapping them. Press enter. We'll also use this shaft collar. So that will need to be moved closer to the work area as well. And we're also going to experiment with a 12-tooth gear. Say okay to that movement and then bring in the 12-tooth gear. Finally move the 12-tooth gear close to the work area as well and press enter. So let's set a good zoom level for ourselves where we can see all of these parts, and we'll close out the data panel because we won't be using that again for day 4 activity. Okay. A couple of items of concern as we're about to start on this joint. For a revolute joint, we need to be able to access this circular end point of this drive shaft. And if you're not zoomed in close enough, you will not be able to access it correctly. So we want to assemble a joint, and we're going to use that circular end right there, as well as this particular circular part right here that puts the joint origin right in the center. Very important to make sure that it displays exactly the way I'm showing it right now. Okay, so once that's in place, we can flip it and insert it into the motor a minimum of 3 millimeters to ensure that it's good contact, and we'll press enter. Again, if we are wanting to double check that, we can right click on this little flag and say animate joint, and it does confirm that that is actually locked into the motor correctly. Press escape whenever you're done with the animation. Next, we're going to put a shaft collar in the correct location. So let's pan over just a little bit. And we'll say J for joint again. We're going to use this part of the shaft collar. All right. And then once again, this part of the drive shaft itself. We are switching away from the revolute back to a rigid because we want the shaft collar to rotate with the drive shaft itself. So we're going to move that to a rigid. And I'm going to use the right side view here to make sure that I have oriented this correctly. All right. Move the shaft collar into the correct location, which is about right there. In real life, in the lab, if we were working with these parts, we would put a little nylon washer in between there to avoid metal to metal contact. But for the fusion work, it's not required today. So we'll say okay, and we'll go back to a home view and finally work with this 12-tooth gear. Next, on the 12-tooth gear, we want to create a joint and base it off of that and this same joint origin from last time. Zoom back out just a little bit. Move this out of the way and rotate the view cube enough so that we can confirm that we're sliding all the way until you have contact with the plastic bearing. And that is approximately 44 millimeters. And press enter. This will complete today's activity. Once you have worked that far along, I will be checking your progress.